Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sangha Live. My name is Alyssa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm your host for today. Today, we have Caverly Morgan leading today's session. Caverly is the founder of Presence Collective and Peace in Schools. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to caverlymorgan.org and you can subscribe to our mailing list. Before I bring Caverly on screen, I do have a few announcements. First, thank you, Sangha Live, for this platform. Sangha Live is run by donations from all of you. So if you have the means today, please use the green button below that says Offer Donation in Dana to give a donation today. And some other announcements on behalf of Presence Collective and Caverly Morgan. July 10th is the last day that we're doing the Sangha Live calls. We're going to be taking a summer break. But if you'd like to see some more of Caverly, July 11th, the day after, she's going to be doing a live book reading of her kids' book, a kids' book about mindfulness. And this is also through Sangha Live, also donation-based. Also, Caverly is going to start doing these morning sits, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. These are going to start up in September. If you'd like to join us, I will include the link for everything in the chat box. We'll be having a touch-in on Tuesday, August 4th, just like a one-off class so that September doesn't feel so far away. Some other upcoming events, Caverly is teaching through Insight Meditation Community of Charlottesville on Tuesday, July 7th. That's next week. That is 4 p.m. PST or 7 p.m. EST. And she's also going to be doing an online retreat in this September through them. And then last but not least, we have a day of retreat coming up led by 4 teachers of the collective. It's called Caucus to Collectivity, Dismantling Racism from a White Identified Perspective. This is going to be Saturday, July 25th. And again, I will include all of these links in the chat box. Now I will bring Caverly on screen. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Alyssa. So grateful. Thank you. Friends, hi. Dare I put my little oolong cup on my computer? That's not good. Hi. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. So happy to be here. Hi, Linda from the Oregon coast. Hi, John from sunny Truckee. Julia. And Austin, Texas. Ellen. Hello. John and Nancy, Jonathan, Maria, Charlie, Sharon, Joyce, Richard, Spencer. Thank you so much for your hello to the community. Friends, if you were here yesterday, you know that this is a morning where I came in open. If you're new today, just know that sometimes I come in with a poem, sometimes I come in with a very specific, I never come in with a script of any kind or a prepared talk of any kind, but I do come in with intention. For example, we focused on the energetic system at one point, breath practices. We focused on process, seeing process over content for many sessions. So today, we've been exploring in these last few days, just to fill you in if you're just joining us today, welcome. We've been exploring the collapsing of the subject-object relationship, the collapsing of that compassionate concession that we make in practice of seeing awareness as separate from what it's aware of. So we don't need to continue in that theme today. Those have been, the last 2 sessions have been really rich, and I thought I'd just see if there's anything folks would like to mention in the sidebar that might direct what we explore today. And I'm totally open to a completely different conversation if there's something that's really alive for you that you'd like to explore. Alyssa, thanks so much for putting those sidebar links in. Friends, at one point, just full transparency, at one point, Jake from Sangha Live offered our organization, Presence Collective, the email addresses from the people who'd been coming regularly. We didn't take the email addresses from people who just popped in and came once, but we took the email addresses from folks who came regularly, and we added those email addresses to the Caverly Morgan mailing list. Caverly Morgan and Presence Collective mailing list are merged at the moment, but Presence Collective is going to be a separate mailing list as soon as next week. So if you have been receiving emails from Caverly Morgan, don't hesitate to unsubscribe if you feel that you didn't want to be on that mailing list. But most people have reported to me that they were grateful to get some of these updates. So in fact, I haven't heard otherwise, but do simply unsubscribe if that doesn't work for you. If you're new and you want to be kept in the loop with how we're going to be offering these sessions after we finish the Sangha Live current commitment, which is through mornings through the 10th of July, then please do join our mailing list. And Alyssa's got a link right there. I'm delighted we'll have this get together in August, and then we'll start those twice a week sessions at the very beginning of September. Maria, John, and Nancy, beautiful. Okay, love the idea of subject-object relationship. Thank you, Shakti. And then Katie, wondering if we can explore responding to anger. Interesting. Okay, very good to know. There's a way in which we might blend those two conversations then. All right, Ellen, delighted, and thank you, lovely. So I'll just leave one more moment. If there's anything else folks would like to put in the question box or in the sidebar. I'm present to the transitory nature of life, that life and death is bringing. Tenderness and presence, beautiful. I've also been curious about not pushing away fear. Okay, great. So we'll talk a little bit about anger and fear, and actually possible to welcome and make friends with fear. Okay, great. Hello, Peter. All right. Anger sounds good. Okay, great. All right, great. All right. Absolute awareness exists with objects arising within, and of it, does it exist with no objects? Very, very rich question. Very lovely place for inquiry, Sharon. Thank you. Let's see what comes out about that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kiki, for naming that you're present to gratitude. Noticing I've been feeling more heavy and ungrounded in these last few weeks, Erica. Thank you. I personally, I just have a theory that on a very deep level, in the mass consciousness, there's an experience of collective grief during this time, especially if you're living in the United States right now. Yeah, so thank you. Okay, Charlie, hi. Okay, not pushing away fear and worry. Objects, no objects. Great. Okay, Diana, thank you. All right, lovely, friends. Lovely. Great. Thank you, Kiki. Hi, Evelyn. Hello. Friends, I'm so glad that we'll have this one more week here, and then again that this won't be a final ending date. It's just so sweet to see you all saying hello, and I just feel that I know you, and there's something very touching to me about that. And even those of you, I know there are many people on this call that never write in. I remember one particularly touching exchange with Sarah, and I don't think Sarah had ever written in, and then she came on screen, and it's just very touching to feel that we had been sharing this space together for weeks. Linda, curious to unpack how our personal trauma and perhaps even narcissism bumps into our internalized racism. Thank you. Maybe that will be explored in your session on the 25th. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you for voicing that. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to save that one. Not necessarily just for the 25th. Maybe we'll explore that one next week, but that's one I would like to really sit with. Thank you. All right, friends, we shall sit. Notice for a moment how different the experience is if you, one, try to clear the mind. Just do that right now. Try to clear the mind. Stop thinking. Don't have thoughts. Keep them away. Clear the mind. And then while you're at it, don't have emotions. Put fear and anger somewhere else. Don't let worry in. Keep the mind clear. Keep emotions out. While we're at it, we should probably not allow strong sensations in. That might disturb our clear peace. So don't let strong sensations arise. Don't let them disturb this piece. Keep thoughts out, emotions out. Just in this name of play, what do you notice about that? What's the felt experience of even considering this as an approach? I'm obviously being dramatic, in a sense, for the fun and the play of it. I'm turning up the volume on what some of us actually are habituated to do in practice, which is to fall for the story that we need to clear the mind, that a good meditation is one in which these things don't disturb us. That distortion is actually seated. The distortion, if you trace the distortion back, you can find truth. And that truth that we find is that consciousness itself is not disturbed by a busy mind. Consciousness itself is not disrupted by strong emotions, by anger or fear or worry. Consciousness itself is not tarnished by pain or strong sensation. In practice, the ego takes that truth and says, well, then I will create that. I will get rid of these things. If you've been practicing a while, you might have a spiritually evolved ego, which there's not really such a thing. The ego just adapts new language to maintain this activity of separateness. And that new language might be something like, I will transcend these things. With the I that experiences itself as separate from life. Cannot and will not ever know liberation. There's no such thing as an enlightened ego. So now for approach 2. Notice what's arising. Since before this meditation, some folks acknowledged various emotions. Let's work with emotion. Notice if there are any emotions present, any emotions arising. Let's say you notice anxiety, something that you label as anxiety. Rather than simply hovering above this experience. Oh, I'm aware of anxiety, naming it, trying to get space from it, evaluating it, maybe even judging it, even trying to accept it. Could be maintaining this sense of I am over here. This strong emotion is over here. Rather than identifying with that limited story of I am aware from the small I, in this approach to begin by simply noticing, what is this awareness actually arising in? Is it arising in this body mind, this separate self? What if that was just a habit of perception? What if this thing that I label anxiety was simply sensation arising in vast, open, unborn, undying consciousness? So in approach 1 and 2, we move from identifying as someone, a separate self that's trying to do something with what's arising, in relationship with what's arising. In approach 2, we recognize ourselves. We turn our attention to ourselves, who we truly are, rather than to the object. And we recognize ourselves as that in which what's arising is arising in. Is infinite consciousness in relationship with what arises? Does it like it and dislike it? Does it want it or not want it? Does it push it away? Does it cling? Trying to do something, practice something to achieve this state of infinite consciousness is like the sky attempting to get rid of planes and clouds and storms and rainbows so that it can have an experience of openness. This very inherent quality of openness is what gives rise to all that arises to form. Rather than trying to achieve this state of openness, simply allow yourself to enjoy what is. The way you might project that the open, aware sky, we're stretching the imagination here, the open, aware sky finds delight in the various forms that arise and pass through and dissolve in the sky. Again, it's a stretch of the imagination, because in this same meditation, I've acknowledged that this is this open sky of awareness isn't liking or disliking or wanting or clinging. But most people report that as we allow ourselves to rest in who we authentically are, we do recognize that if we were to describe that innate experience, we might use a word like happiness. It's not the happiness that's the opposite of sadness. Some of you might use a word like deep well-being, or contentment. It's what we all long for, that kind of happiness. So rest in who you are. Rather than try to become who you think you should be. Rest in who you are. friends, thank you. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for supporting Sangha Live as you are able. Greatly appreciate it. I've mentioned on a couple calls that Sangha Live just above breaks even on these calls, and it would be so lovely to have our sessions go out with a bang of sorts. So if you can, please do support as you can. And for all of those who have been supporting, thank you. So what did you notice about emotion? These two approaches. What are you present to? Oh, good. Charlie, you got so much from that. Good. What's alive? What would you like to discuss? I'd love to see you on screen. Alyssa, if anyone writes in the sidebar or the question box that they're willing, just bring them right on, even if I'm in the middle of rambling on about something else. So please come on today if it would interest you to ask a question or engage in discussion. Oh, good. John and Nancy, so much from that. Thank you. I love the sound of the trash truck going by. Friends, I wondered, I was like, this is a pretty good mic that Sangha Live sent me. Pretty like high quality mic here that they sent me. It's pretty snazzy. I thought, I bet you this gets picked up every Friday. Just a cloud in the vastness of the sky. Very content. Beautiful. Great. Great. Yes. Yeah, the sound arising in that way. Today we were focusing on emotion and thoughts and some sensation, but sound it's just the same way. I might have brought that in, but just I didn't know if you couldn't hear that. I haven't been sure how much this mic is picking up, but if you couldn't hear that, I didn't think it would be necessarily the best thing to work with. But yes, in your practice, as sound arises, it's the same thing. Oh, great, Charlie, you can come on screen. I'd love that. Wonderful. Alyssa, please. Yeah, Lisa's got your back. Do it, Charlie. Great. Linda, richly experienced being witness to my shadowy aspects. Lovely to let it all arise and fall away. Yes, to allow yourself to be more than the witness. Charlie from California.
Good morning. The sun's actually shining.
Good morning.
That was neat.
What was neat about it, Charlie?
So, I think I've mentioned, Caverly, that I'm a big fan of looking at my awareness as the sky and all of those emotions that ebb and flow as clouds or storm systems. I really enjoy that imagery. And today I was there up in the sky of my awareness, and suddenly it just shifted and I was below the waves in the ocean and was watching those emotions as from like below the surface as these beautiful waves just cresting and falling and breaking and forming above me and all around me. I don't know, it was just a really neat sensation. I don't need to dissect it any further than that.
No, you don't. Charlie, it's what's striking to me and feels worth reflecting to you is that you use the word beautiful, when we're identified with the conditioned mind, we would never choose a word like that. If I just am this experience of a separate self who's full of X emotion, plug in, fill in the blank, that's probably not something I'll describe that way. This beautiful ebbing and flowing and crashing and forming and right. And it's actually striking to me, Charlie, given that on Wednesday night, we focused on impermanence and you were exploring your relationship to objects forming and form not being different from emptiness not being different from form. It's really a similar resting into, isn't it?
It very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. And you've helped me access it in so many different ways.
Act as it or access it?
Access it.
Access it, yeah. To touch it and to know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to realize that it's ever present.
And to realize that it's ever present. It's key, isn't it? It's so different when we feel, when we perceive and then feel in that order, when we have this sense that the happiness we long for is something we have to try for, hold on to, effort to know. And when we experience it as ever present, when we experience, and again, this isn't happiness as the opposite of sadness. Happiness is just one way we could talk about what we all long for. Happiness, the same as just well-being, our own capacity to rest in the truest form, which is actually formless, of who we are.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it interesting that in this separate self, this body mind, we have to find a name for things.
Right.
It's something I'm playing with or experiencing is sitting in that place of silence and ever presence and understanding that the true name of things, whether it be emotions or experiences, the true name can't be put to word.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
The true name of all things is unnameable.
It's formless.
It's formless.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful experience today, Caverly, and so many days. Every day. Just thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for your dedication and your practice and your presence, Charlie. It's just always lovely to see you.
You too.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Good job.
All right, friends. What else are you present to? What else is arising? Mary Jane, rest in who you are. Such rich advice. We'll keep as a mantra to remind me to let go into that great awareness/openness. Beautiful. Kiki, I really enjoyed the meditation today, Caverly. I feel content and relieved to just rest in who I truly am and not have to strive to be who I'm expected to be. Excellent. Lisa, thank you. Charlie, yes, thank you, Charlie. John and Nancy, or the names we give things are limiting. Yes. Thanks. Yes. Jonathan, is language the main thing that obscures reality? Jonathan, that's a rich question. We have time to explore it if you'd like to come on. I feel like I always just nudge you all so much. Come on. Okay, Katie, interesting. True naming is formless. Well, Katie, what I think's at the heart of what we were just exploring is that absolutely we can name, this is a bell. We can name that, but that what we're exploring today is what this bell truly is beyond the form of bell is unnameable, in the same way that who you truly are is unnameable. We can attach a word like awareness or consciousness, but even that shapes it into something. And yet most of you would report that your direct felt experience is that it's what we're describing is not a thing. Yeah, thank you. So is language, Jonathan, you might be feeling shy, that's all right. Oh wait, Jonathan says sure. So Alyssa, please bring on Jonathan. Okay, good, Katie. Very thoughtful and insightful. Seth, way to go, Chuck. I don't know if you know Charlie, Seth, but Charlie, if that's a nickname of yours, there you go. Hi, Jonathan. Are you in Paris? Am I remembering correctly?
No, the Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Close to Paris.
Hello and welcome. Yes, I remember we've had an exchange before. How are you?
Yeah, fine. At the end of the day. Because of your exchange with Charlie, also from some other experiences, I was wondering, how can it be that language is the thing that allows the way that we live? The naming of stuff makes life easy to explain to one another what we're doing and what everything means, but it also seems to be limiting in the sense that the fundamental reality cannot be named.
Yes, we have. Yes. Oh, please.
Yeah. So because it facilitates many things in our lives, we tend to use then the same language to define fundamental realities, which seems to be very limiting.
Yes, I agree with you. In fact, it might interest you to know, if you don't already know, that Sri Ramana Maharshi spent years and years in silence. Are you familiar with Sri Ramana Maharshi?
No.
So look him up later. There's a lovely film on YouTube. I think, Alyssa, if you could try to track it down and put it in the sidebar, Alyssa, it's the little film we showed at the summer retreat last year. I think it's called Yanni. Anyway, maybe Alyssa will come up with it, but it's on YouTube. It's about Sri Ramana Maharshi, and he was a sage in India that was in silence, in meditation for 18 years with no break in that. And he meditating in a cave. I actually had the good fortune to go and meditate in that cave not too long ago. And he truly only started speaking so students started to gather around him, and he truly only started speaking because he saw that some students needed to have things spelled out a little bit. It wasn't enough for them just to sit in that silence, in that vastness, in that presence with him. So he was asked to draw out a little bit. And so he, out of commitment to service, and I would project sort of his desire to support others, his love of others, he allowed himself to speak. But the speaking is if necessary. I don't know, Jonathan, if you were on the call when I mentioned that at the monastery where I trained, there was a sign above the telephone that said, before speaking, consider whether it's an improvement upon silence.
Yeah, so it feels like a paradox, because the more we speak and the more we use language, the more obscurity it also creates.
Yeah.
Well, it's also necessary for daily life.
Yes.
So it seems like we should think about some kind of new language.
Yes. Yes. One thing that I've found great comfort in is, to, rather than feel that we have to just throw language away, to explore, because language will always by nature be limiting, as you're saying. So to explore, what's it like to have language arise on behalf of our experience, at least, rather than feed the way in which language can be so, for example, like othering, in light of what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So how can we speak from our deepest knowing?
Yeah, it's a great exercise.
It's a great exercise, yeah, because
practice.
if we just say, well, we're gonna have entirely new language, the new language will be crafted from the same mind, the finite mind, so that it cannot be, right? So given that we don't have to resist that the finite mind is the birthplace of language, we don't have to resist that, but we can allow this knowing of the infinite, our direct experience of the infinite, to be the place from which we speak.
Yeah.
Or from we speak. I don't think we need a which there, speaking of language.
Yeah, interesting stuff. It requires
It's
a lot
very
of
interesting stuff.
adaptation and unlearning, I think, to use language properly.
Yes. Yes. And it's really about who's using the language, isn't it? Is my sense of being a separate self that which is using the language? Then the conversation will be quite different. If I am speaking from the belief that I am this, I keep using this as a metaphor for this sense of a limited self. If I'm using language that it's just maintaining this sense of a separate self, it's going to be a very different conversation than if I'm speaking from my deepest knowing, my deepest love. Try for one day, or we could all take on as a homework assignment over the weekend. How might we practice speaking from our deepest love and understanding through the whole weekend? If we catch ourselves speaking from I am this separate self, just notice that and return to this intention.
I think it will not be very dense in words.
It won't be probably as dense in words.
Yeah.
There might be a whole lot more shared presence.
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Jonathan, thanks. Thanks for coming on. Lovely to see you. Okay, friends, I acknowledge we're 4 minutes over, and I'm so delighted that I'll see you again Monday, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you, Alyssa, for your service. Thank you, Alyssa, for posting the link to that documentary. Friends, have a movie night over the weekend. Check that lovely documentary out. Okay, see you soon.